There are quite a few exotic cats in the world that are sometimes kept as exotic pets, but you might have noticed that one particular iconic African cat is not often seen gracing the backyards or lounging on a couch in domestic settings. The cheetah is well known as the fastest land animal, as well as one of the most recognizable fauna in Africa's vast wilderness. Therefore, if seeing a cheetah in person is a thrilling experience, it's obvious to see why caring for one and raising a cheetah would be an extraordinary privilege. So how would someone go about getting a cheetah as a pet? Well, first of all, let's address whether or not you even want a pet cheetah. Of course, cheetahs have been owned as hunting companions and pets since the time of the ancient Egyptians, and remained somewhat popular with Old World royals until the practice died down in the 17th century in Europe. These tall felines are also substantially more docile and less dangerous in comparison to the true big cats. The appeal of owning a cheetah is not difficult to understand. So a cat is a cat, right? You feed them, you give them exercise and the appropriate enrichment, and they should do perfectly fine. Well, this is actually true of some feline species. Tigers, servals, and a few other exotic cats fare very well in the captive setting, breeding well and even reaching older ages than what is common for them in the wild. This is why there is a steady stream of these animals appearing in legitimate animal sanctuaries, just as there is a need for domesticated dog and cat shelters. But do you often see cheetahs in rescue facilities? If you have, you might want to hold the legitimacy of that animal rescue in question. This is because cheetahs are rare and valuable animals in captivity, and if a cheetah needed a good home, it wouldn't be very hard for it to find one. There are only a few zoos privileged to house cheetahs that are not part of the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. The reason for this is because cheetahs breed very poorly in captivity, and unfortunately, due to this, there is not even a self-sustaining population of these animals in professional zoological facilities. This is why, while nearly every major zoo features tigers and lions, cheetahs are uncommonly exhibited. There is an important reason for this. Numerous studies on captive cheetahs reveal that the species often suffers from chronic stress and subsequent reproductive suppression when kept on display, when higher numbers of zookeepers are working around them, when they are transported, and when they are kept in the smaller enclosures that urban zoos typically can provide. This stress unfortunately makes cheetahs vulnerable to illness in captivity, such as gastritis and renal diseases. To add to this, both captive and wild cheetahs lack genetic variation due to an ancient bottleneck event that occurred around 10,000 years ago. Sadly, there is 10 times less genetic distance between subspecies of cheetahs than between human racial groups. Cheetahs also have a very unique social system in the wild that plays a critical part in their breeding success within zoos. Female cheetahs in the wild are completely solitary when they aren't raising cubs, while males often form coalitions with their siblings for life, and sometimes with another unrelated compatible male. Male cheetahs in coalitions often have superior health, increased confidence, and more access to females for breeding. In zoos, cheetahs have been shown to psychologically benefit from these natural arrangements, and facilities that keep males together and separate from females have had drastically improved breeding success. In fact, a tiny portion of the captive cheetah population, less than 10%, have successfully bred, and 90% of the breeding has occurred in off-site breeding facilities. These facilities offer the space, solitude, and reduced exposure to humans that helps stimulate breeding in the species. They also house many cheetahs, giving the female the ability to choose between groups of males that are introduced strategically at a time. Modern zoological manuals recommend that female cheetahs be kept alone in most cases, as even female cheetahs that have been shown to successfully tolerate or even be friendly towards cage mates have elevated signs of stress such as cage pacing. Of course, each cheetah is an individual with a distinct personality. that of which has been shown to impact whether they will adapt to and breed successfully in captivity. So what does this mean for people who want to own a pet cheetah? Obviously, the vulnerable and decreasing wild populations of cheetahs should never be disturbed. Sadly, cheetahs that are hand-raised have higher mortality rates as cubs, and those which reach adulthood tend to reproduce even more poorly. In most cases, it is ideal for male cheetahs to stay within their coalitions for life, making only female cheetahs suitable for being kept alone. Given that cheetahs are so compromised genetically, all cheetahs suitable for breeding are essential for the survival of the species, so it would only be ethical to remove surplus cheetahs that do not fit into a breeding program for other purposes. Female cheetahs that are 8 to 9 years old are unlikely to give birth, and theoretically, cheetah breeding facilities could benefit by placing these animals in private homes, freeing up large enclosures for new breeding females. If you want to get a pet cheetah, prepare for a tremendous expense if you live outside of their natural range. How much do pet cheetahs cost, and what would you have to do to get one? The following information has been adapted from a real owner of pet cheetahs who went through the process. But before we get to that, we'd like to ask you to like this video and subscribe. We strive to provide real, non-judgmental information about animal ownership of all kinds, from garter snakes to giraffes. It takes a special commitment to import a cheetah. Sadly, in the illegal exotic pet trade within Africa and the Arabian Peninsula, cheetah cubs sell for $80 to $5,000 and are often sick and dying. These animals are also removed from the wild, and this harms wild populations. Cheetahs, however, can be purchased legally from one of the few specialized cheetah breeding centers in the world. The cost is at least $20,000, but likely more, and king cheetahs, which have a special coat coloration, have been sold for around $100,000. Being that it can take a year for this import process to be carried out in the United States, only adult cheetahs can be imported, which obviously poses its own sets of challenges. It seems that at this point, only USDA licensed zoo owners have successfully imported cheetahs for private ownership in the United States. However, this breeding center has reportedly also sold to truly private pet owners in Canada. To realistically be approved to have cheetahs sold to you, you'd have to demonstrate thorough knowledge about the animals and develop a positive relationship with domestic private zoo owners who could also help with the complicated paperwork for importing. It would also be helpful to develop a positive relationship with the representative of domestic facilities that own and breed cheetahs. Importing a cheetah to North America can be difficult, so a buyer should enlist the help of an experienced and licensed importer. Animal imports from other countries must arrive at specific port of entry locations with the proper paperwork, and any lapse in the paperwork could get the animals permanently confiscated. So to recap, if you realistically want to own a pet cheetah, you're in for a lengthy, expensive process that can only be achieved by developing a positive relationship with the right people. Despite how difficult it is to import a cheetah, owning one may be even tougher, as you'd need either a very large outdoor enclosure to house them and/or work with them extensively to make sure they walk and run every day to avoid chronic illness. If you are still interested in keeping cheetahs one day, it is imperative to contribute to their survival in the wild. Cheetahs are incredible creatures and will take a unified effort with both professional accredited facilities and private owners ensuring that valuable breeding animals are contributing to form the largest population of cheetahs possible. Given how compromised the species is genetically, the bigger the population of captive cheetahs, the better. Please also donate to these respected organizations fighting for cheetahs and other animals in the wild to ensure they are around for future generations. Please remember to like this video and subscribe, and thanks for watching.